All right, Comic Crusaders fans, it is Jeff Bracey coming at you once again with another interview. And today we are looking at the Kickstarter for the Tales of the Blood Island. Well, Tales of Blood Island. It's a tiki horror based game based on some old movies out of the Philippines in the 60s and 70s. Some pretty wild and crazy stuff, and there's a whole lot to go into there. There's games, there's comic books, there's a drinking game, there's blankets, there's all kinds of craziness. And today we're going to talk with the people responsible for this. But first, let's take a look at the trailer for the Kickstarter.
He's back from the dead and hunting for heads. Yours. The Beast of Blood returns for more tiki terrors in the second exciting issue of Brian Usna's Tales of Blood Island. More high-adventure horror awaits in the Tales of Blood Island board game.
Heads up, Brian. He's coming to get ya.
And to quench your thirst for more Blood Island goodies, you can sip a bit of paradise with the Mad Dr. Lorca's Green Blood drinking game and the official Beast of Blood cocktail collection, including a glow-in-the-dark shooter glass, glow-in-the-dark zombie glass, and the Green-Blooded Monster's own two-piece stacker mug. So get ahead of the undead and set sail for Brian Usna's Tales of Blood Island comics, board game, and tiki barware.
Talk to me now,
All right, let's get our guests in here and get some talking going on. All right, gentlemen, feel free to introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about what your involvement with the project is.
I'll start out. My name's Dave Sehring. I head up a little production company / consultancy called Drive Insanity Films, and I represent.
I love that name.
Well, it sort of ties into this campaign. I represent Sam Sherman, who was a drive-in producer, along with his partner Al Adamson, but he also handled these films out of the Philippines. They were called the Blood Island. I guess it's a quadrilogy. The film started in '59 with Terror is a Man, followed up by Brides of Blood Island in Brides of Blood in '68. '69 was Mad Doctor of Blood Island, and 1970 was Beast of Blood. These films were all distributed to the drive-ins. They were made for the drive-in market. And the guy I represent, Sam Sherman, he's 83 years young now, and he's got this library of films. So I said to Sam, let's do something with them, Sam. Let's try to resurrect the Beast of Blood, who was this green-blooded zombie from the movies, and have some fun, maybe do a comic book. We launched a board game this past Kickstarter, and everything else to try and resurrect this monster and this franchise that is a really unique one that you could say might have had influenced people like Francis Ford Coppola, who shot Apocalypse Now in the Philippines and worked with a couple of the star of a number of these Blood Island films, named John Ashley, who was an associate producer on Apocalypse Now. He's also the producer of the A-Team. He was in all those AIP Beach Party films. And Eddie Romero, the director of the Blood Island, most of the Blood Island films, Eddie Romero was also an associate producer on Apocalypse Now. So if you look carefully, a lot of people sort of dismiss these films as just B-movie exploitation. They're known as the films that established the blood, breasts, and beasts formula. They all feature these things. And, I remember seeing them at the drive-in when I was a kid, and I was sort of, wow, there's naked women running around. And there's, natives getting their heads ripped off. All this really wild stuff. Kind of overshadowed by, the other Romero, George Romero, and Night of the Living Dead in '68. But they have a following, and lo and behold, here we are rebooting the franchise with comic books. Anthony Palumbo, who's on here with us, he he did a visualization of a reboot for us. I'm working with Brian Usna, who's the producer of the Reanimator film franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some parallels because you got, like disembodied and decapitated living heads and zombies. You got some sort of green formula reagent. So Brian, ironically, was born in the Philippines. He moved from there when he was 1, but he is a Filipino. And basically, he's a Filipino American, I guess you could say. But he really
citizen, born.
Yeah, he embraced this project, and he sort of helped us move it along because he's got a name in the zombie genre, and so that's pretty much. And my co-writer on the project, Mark Cerulli, he's on here, and he helped me co-write the script for a movie, which sort of inspired the comic book. So, what Brian said for us to do was, why don't you work with some artists who had done some storyboards for us on some key scenes? And then we said, let's do a comic because nobody reads anymore in Hollywood. So Mark helped me write this. Tony did some concept art. Unfortunately, our artist, Steven Sestilli, is probably having technical issues with his computer, but he's a great artist. Brian loved his work. And we just funded issue 2 of the comic, and we plan to do 4 issues and obviously make a trade paperback at some point in the game.
I just have to add that what drew me to this was I loved the Blood Island movies. When I was a kid, they were playing on TV, Creature Features or whatever, and I just remember the beautiful scenery of the Philippines, and plus, a beast that could pull its own head off. I mean, you can't beat that.
It's a pretty exciting visual, and you can see, like, me and Mark were having a little discussion before we started in the green room about how, like, I can see where Brian probably got inspired by a lot of this stuff, because right there in Bride of Reanimator, which he produced, he didn't direct that one, but there's a headless yet still animated body going on, and like as you rightly pointed out, the green formula, even if it's not chlorophyll this time.
Yeah. No, they're definitely parallels, and watching the films again, and there was a documentary done a few years ago. I think it was called Machete Maidens or something, and they went through all of the films produced in the Philippines for the U.S. market, which included Apocalypse Now, but it also, Roger Corman ended up making movies there. But it was this guy named Kane Lin, who was an Navy officer who set up shop in the Philippines and said, I want to make some movies, started making war films, but they found a winning formula with horror and Terror is a Man, which was basically a light version of Island of Dr. Moreau, Island of Lost Souls. But all of these movies were produced and set in the Philippines, but on a fictional island called Isla de Sangre, aka Blood Island. That's the connecting tissue of our comic, and it's a character for us just as much as the Beast of Blood, the Panther Man, but we've also added new monsters to the equation, including some from the Philippines that are, like an Aswang or a Manananggal, which is this weird monster that
that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's got intestines and guts flying out, and it sucks babies through its tongue. So there's some wild stuff.
I was talking to Mark again. I was talking about like how much I enjoy the mythologies from different cultures around the world, and I was like, when you look at Western monsters, they sort of make a kind of a logical sense when you think about it, whether lycanthropy or some sort of reanimated body or a possessed spirit. But I said, like in Asia, there's no rules. It's all body horror. I was describing, I forget the name of this creature. There's literally a bisected man who will chase you in Japan. I think that's a Japanese thing. And I didn't mention the Monogal, but like the sack of organs with a flying head.
Yeah.
And the one, because I noted one of the particular pieces of art for the campaign gave our headless ghoul a very long Oswang-like tongue.
Yeah. No, I think what attracted me to the project is, again, I saw them at the drive-in as a kid, grew up with them on Creature Features, was shocked and really interested because of the nudity and the gore. Because the only thing I had seen at that stage in '68, I saw Night of the Living Dead, but this was color. This movie was truly blood, breast, and beast. And I remember seeing these on television unedited because they didn't have standards and practices back then.
Right.
They were shipping around 16 millimeter reduction prints to the stations. This was just around the time or pre-ratings code. So these weren't even rated when I saw them at the drive-in. Not even a G or PG or an R. So they slipped through.
Yeah, I mean, they were just looking for content, like some film from where? Like, we'll just throw it up. We'll just we need something to fill the space this week.
Yep. So they were really and they've stuck with me ever since. And I got to know Sam Sherman, who did the marketing campaigns and the trailers and basically oversaw a lot of the gimmickry, ballyhoo, as they say, for these films. And eventually he ended up owning these pictures. He started his own company called Independent International Pictures with his partner, Al Adamson, who was tragically murdered. But they made a sequel. It wasn't really a sequel. A lot of people confuse it because Sam made it for Hemisphere with Al Adamson. It was called Brain of Blood. And Brain of Blood. It's not.
I mean, it sounds like it could be part of the series.
Yeah, it's not part of the series. It was set on like in Pakistan or something. It just made no sense. But Sam repurposed. Sam is one not to waste not, want not. He repurposed the music from the Blood Island films. A lot of the Mad Doctor of Blood Island soundtrack you can hear in that. And, they made it cheapy and they got paid for it, but it's not a true Blood Island film. So
okay, so he did a little of that Roger Corman song and dance.
Yeah, William Castle. He was
William
Castle.
Yeah, but Sam came up with the whole the green blood oath and green blood potion at the front of the film, which we've also taken advantage of and included in our board game. We have a green blood drinking game as part of the board game. The board game basically, the comic served as a springboard to create this board game. And we started to say, what if Candyland met, Blood Island, and you also had an opportunity to include a drinking formula with it. So that's what we did. And Tony,
I can't tell you how much I just love everything you just said right there.
Tony sculpted this guy for the game. I can't really.
Oh, that looks awesome.
I got to get me one of those.
I got it. There he is.
Because you, that's actually one of the perks. You can get the 3D print file, the STL file.
Yeah.
Tony
sculpted this. I can't get him. There we go.
It's counterintuitive because you got to go the opposite way you think you're going.
There we go.
Yeah, he looks very ill.
That's cool. I like that paint job on him.
Yeah, he'll come in just a flat green like this with the game. But Let's see.
I just have to tell you that the game itself looked like all those big Remco and Ideal games that you would get back in the 60s. I mean, it's big. It's beautiful looking. It really is.
Yeah,
definitely
and
look-
we even have a
Aspect of
little
it.
shot glass that goes with it. So if you don't want to play with the Beast of Blood figure, this would get filled up with your favorite green colored beverage. And if you land on it, or if it lands on your hero piece, guess what you got to do? You got to drink the green blood. So
And
it's
doesn't the
all kind of tying into the films, the gimmickry, and also our comic book, which has a lot of monsters. Our board game is it's actually we printed it on a spill-proof game mat.
Oh, that was smart.
Just in case. Now you can get the cardboard version too if you're old school, but we figured for those who want to enjoy and partake in a drink or
beverage.
two, yeah,
Responsibly, of course.
yeah, it could get some spillage going on, but that's all part of the fun.
If
Because
you're there will always be spillage.
There's
The
always
green
spillage.
By the
The
way,
green blood drink.
I love the line "Get ahead of the undead."
Yeah.
I wish I had written that one.
Everything about this is like so retro cool, so cheesy. I love the grindhouse aspect, the clear exploitation. The model that you sculpted reminds me a lot of the old Horizon horror model kits I used to get, things like the Wolfman and Frankenstein and Godzilla. There's that sort of appeal to it, and it's all reflected. I see, and this is a big campaign. You guys have a lot to offer here.
Yeah. I got a lot of direction from David about vintage toys that we were drawing on for the look of the sculpts.
Oh yeah, there it is. There it is.
Pieces.
Yeah. Tony, is such a talented artist. He has skills and everything. And Tony, what did you do this in ZBrush or something to this?
Yeah, that was the main sculpting tool. So yeah, for that guy and some of the tokens for the game, it was fun. And yeah, I thought I was a big fan of cult films, and I had completely not heard of any of these movies until David introduced me to them. So this has been a cool thing for me to learn about too. A ton of cool mythology in those.
I must now read Rest in Peace. Wow.
It's funny because there was like one of the clips I saw was a little documentary actually talking about this series of films. I think it's on the new quadrilogy Blu-ray. It's come out film, and they said people don't go to the drive-ins, to see Shakespeare. They want to see boobs and blood. Yeah, so it's the 3 B's as you put it. In the formula.
Yeah, this film really did establish the formula. A lot of people say, "Oh, Herschel," because even Sam Sherman, who worked on the campaigns, blood was key, but a lot of newspapers at the time wouldn't use the title blood. Crazy.
It was a kinder, gentler time.
Yeah. So, he had to come up with different ideas. Even the poster got flagged at the time, but there was no real censorship. This was all pre-ratings. But what was fun about just working with Sam is, he's truly the inspiration for me on this, because he came up with the green bloods. He had to make something out of basically a film produced on the cheap and on the quick to feed that drive-in market, which was still quite popular at that time. So how did he hook them in? With a crazy ad campaign and green blood and snake charmers, anything wild, kind of like a William Castle.
Yeah,
right.
Just following in those footsteps, which is what we tried to do with this Kickstarter campaign. Really, like you said, grindhouse exploitation and just utilizing all the kind of bells and whistles that we could to convince people to help fund our little project here.
What I'm thinking is that it's also a drinking game, so I don't know if I could ever finish the game then.
Well, the game, it basically serves. There's a double-sided spinner. Let's see if I can show it. There's a double-sided. Here we go. Double-sided spinner, and you see it's got shots, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is if your spinner arrow lands on one of those things, you move the body, which at this point would be headless. Okay. There's the headless body. And he's chasing your hero character. Let me see if I've got one handy. The hero characters, there are 4 of them. They're based on the heroes in our comic book. And they are, 2 men and 2 women. Here's one of the female characters. She's sort of a...
Oh, yes.
That's our...
Susie Q.
Epa!
Yeah, so the beast, she's got to get off the island along with 3 other characters, depending on who you're playing with, while the beast's head, body, a dismembered foot, and a dismembered hand are chasing you around. If they land on you, or if you plan to use the shot glass, you got to drink, but you got to head back to the lagoon where you started if these pieces land on you. It's really old school board game. So, but we've added some touches that I hope people will enjoy. You collect tokens along the way, and you put them in your cannibal cauldron.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's
It's so cool.
it's something you wouldn't normally see at a Target or.
No, but the attention to detail, and I mean, because I worked with it when we shot the promo, and
Oh no,
we lost him.
we did lose him. Hey, he's back. Last word we heard was promo.
I just said that when I shot the promo for Dave, we had the actual game, and the attention to detail and the quality of it was, and how many pieces there were. I mean, forget playing it, just to have it as a collectible. I mean, it's just beautiful. And I did not get paid to say that. I'm just saying it. And here's our hero. There he is.
Hey! I'm thinking,
Kicking back
Yeah,
with
sorry
some
you couldn't
green
join, but
blood serum.
yeah. So Brian, obviously he's an old friend of mine, because I launched a channel back in 2003 called Monsters HD, and it was 24/7 horror. It was run by the people who, it was an AMC network. They've got Shudder now, but basically at the time, HD was brandy new, and I tried to get every zombie film there was. I licensed the Living Dead films from Image 10, and then I had licensed Dawn and Day of the Dead, and I also got the Reanimator films, and Brian controls those films, and I remastered them to HD for this channel. So I struck up a friendship with Brian long ago, and then this came upon me, and I said, gee, Brian would be great to have as a director, because he's really done some great stuff with body horror, Society and the Reanimator films. I mean,
yes.
the whole, the Dentist, I think, is just coming out on Blu-ray. Yeah. They're just whacked. And, Brian's a regular guy.
Yeah.
He's not Hollywood. He's like a guy from North Carolina and the Philippines, but he's truly a journeyman too. He's made films in Spain,
Malaysia.
And he worked in Jakarta for a long time. In fact, we were close to doing something before COVID in Bali, because Brian and I were trying to get a low budget production made, but now we're talking about something bigger budget, because somebody else has expressed interest. And guess what? It was based on Tony's art, Steven's art, and basically not our script. Sorry, Mark, but it's the images that do it. But having something tangible and something visual, it really helps. Tony did this art for us, and it just really wraps up the whole concept.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah, and the whole sensibility and just showing that image, people get it, and either they get it or they don't, but that's the atmosphere. And I remember giving Tony the direction to get that kind of Apocalypse Now, color. What would you call that, Tony? It was sort of like a golden,
just golden hell, I guess.
yeah. Golden hell.
Instead of the golden hour, the golden hill.
Yeah.
So Tony, where were you digging into, man, when you draw, and especially for this specific genre? I mean, are you an OG horror fan? I mean, what do you dig into, artistically when you start putting this type of content out there?
I'm actually not a horror fan. I'm a huge science fiction fan and fantasy, and I'm somewhat versed in horror. But yeah, when I think horror, I go back to older painters from like 500 years ago. Really, just that, like I guess I was thinking of like Rembrandt, kind of with that golden look. But
No, I get that.
Well, Tony, one of the things, the way I hooked up with Tony is kind of ironic, because I tried to hire Tony's, one of Tony's parents. I couldn't afford them.
Oh, one of his parents.
Tony, why don't you tell them?
Yeah, well, so my stepfather's illustrator, Boris Vallejo, and he's done
a legend. I got his cards.
Stuff you guys have seen. So yeah,
Boris, Julie.
Yeah,
Holy cow!
And so David was trying to work with Boris, but it didn't work out. But I was available, and this was for a different job 10 years ago or so. I think for the Dracula.
Yeah, Argento's Dracula.
Yeah.
A great poster for me. So, Tony's got the chops. He's got the skills. Tony, you went to art school, right?
Yeah. Very traditional. Trained as a painter, and then in oil paint, and then kind of taught myself these digital tools because I really wanted to work in films, video games, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of projects with David. It's been really fun.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have the group and Tony on board. The guy is just, if I asked him to sculpt something and ZBrush, he can do it. If I ask Tony to paint something, he can do it. There's obviously this world now with artificial intelligence, which we're not fans of. This stuff is all pretty much hand by hand and curated by people. It's not just some anonymous tool putting something together inexpensively too. I mean, most of the board games you see today, they're just really they're cookie cutter.
By the numbers.
By the numbers. This has an old school feel about it, but you can tell.
I love how you say cookie cutter. I think they're more like safety scissors.
Yeah. There you go.
Not this. This is a chainsaw coming at you.
Hell yeah, baby, bring it! Thank you for bringing the blood, team. Because real Blood Island shit, you guys are not playing. Because eventually, by the end of the night, I'm probably gonna be laid out in blood because I'm gonna be so drunk after messing up so many times that hell this guy's gonna be after me. I'm gonna have nightmares. What are you guys trying to do to us? What's the goal?
Just get a movie made.
Get a movie made, and all of this stuff we're creating is to resurrect a brand and a movie franchise that hasn't really seen the light of day since their original release, meaning they made 4 successful films and then they stopped. Yeah. And one of the reasons they stopped was because the actor John Ashley and the director Eddie Romero decided to do their own thing and leave Kane Lin, the guy who set up shop after his World War II stint in the Philippines, or maybe it was during I forget which war, but Kane Lin set up shop making movies for the drive-in market, and John Ashley and Eddie Romero sort of walked on by and said, let's do our own thing, and they made a couple of movies. One was called Twilight People, It was also shot in the Philippines, and they did some stuff for Corman. I think the thing is that these films, the original poster for Beast of Blood, is so iconic. It's got this zombie ripping his head off. And it's just something that you don't see, and that art, really is one that is like, geez, they don't make them like that anymore. And
no, they don't.
And I want to speak to that real quick, especially
there it is.
Here.
Look at. Hold on. Let me put. Hey, look at that! Unbelievable! Oh, hell yeah!
Love it. Well, what else do you need?
Yeah, there you go. It sells.
One of the things that used to draw me into a movie is just like what would draw you into a book cover or a comic book cover, especially. And I'll say this is one thing I'm slightly disappointed with the comic. When I saw it on the campaign, I was really hoping it was like newsstand magazine size, because it has that feel when you look at it, like even into the graphic design and everything. But the those old posters for those movies, they used to have these beautifully painted illustrations to advertise movies, and then like somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s or so, it all just became like glamour shots, and it's so boring. I missed the old, really, for all genres of film, they used to do these incredible painted posters. I'm so happy to see that on this project here.
Yeah, we're lucky to have it, and obviously, I think that's where another cookie cutter thing. When you see a lot of the Photoshopped posters and what you call tiles now on streaming services, they all start to blur and look alike. Yep. They've got no soul. They got no real identity, and
or they select the worst possible image.
Yeah,
yeah. You would think, you know what it is? They keep staring at their phone so much they go in colorblind and have no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Just skimming through tile after tile, and it's sort of mind numbing, and it just becomes a blur. So
it's definitely something too that, not like, I'm sure with all of you guys, like when I was growing up, we used to have posters on our walls, and like, so you could appreciate this big piece of art sitting there in your room.
Yeah.
Tony, for the production art, now you're not a horror fan, and you got this classical training. Yet when I look at your stuff here, it reminds me very much of these comics I used to love growing up, like Vampirella and the EC comics and the Vault of Horror and the Eerie and all that stuff. And
I do love those, and I think maybe I undersell how much I'm close to horror, just because friends of mine who are horror obsessives, to me, they're like, you guys are horror fans, and I'm a horror appreciator, but not as deep in my knowledge of it.
I love it.
Horror appreciator.
You haven't got down the rabbit hole. That's what you're saying.
Compared to a normal person, I'm a total freak. But compared to you guys, I'm very pedestrian in my horror.
Wait a minute. Maybe we're the freaks because we love looking at this blood so much, and you're the normal one. Like, please don't put me into this.
Because I was going to ask you, like, when I approach doing a piece of horror art, I like to look at guys like Bernie Wrightson, obviously, or Michael Plug. Did any of those guys inspire you in terms of what you were doing here?
Yeah, I mean, Wrightson for sure. His Frankenstein book's still one of the greatest works of art that I've ever seen, and just like, I think that anytime I do a zombie of any kind, I'll think of that. The way he drew that Frankenstein the monster is amazing. But just wanting to do it justice, really, and I really love classic movie posters. I thought when I was training to be an artist, that's what I would do in my career, and I've got to do it just a little bit, mainly through David, because there's so few projects that want a painting for their poster art. And I think the movie productions have gotten so expensive that they're much more risk averse, and they have their creative pipeline of how the promotional art is made, and they don't want individual artists' voices in that. They want the actors' pictures and not as much creativity, and that's been disappointing to see.
It
it's
is
fun
this point.
to actually do it for real. Old school
When I
way.
think of a classic poster, like the first Star Wars poster, that iconic, Luke holding the lightsaber up and Vader's head looming behind him, and all these other elements that tell the story. And in pictures are fine, but like, when everything else is a picture, like David said, like what sets you apart? A really great piece of art will move somebody more than just a bunch of glossy headshots, against a guy background.
I want to
I
ask
totally
you guys,
agree.
how excited are you guys? From a $20,000 goal, you guys racked up 32 racks on this baby boy right here. I mean, kudos to you. Was this like what, your first Kickstarter project or what?
No, it's our second one, but this one we threw everything in the kitchen sink at it.
Yeah.
Our first campaign only featured really a comic book, along with the tiki mug. Since these films were set in this mythical tropical green hell, we decided to go with the tiki kind of vibe, and there are a lot of tikis in these movies. So we decided, okay, let's do a tiki mug, because tiki culture, like horror culture, is a thing.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made a Beast of Blood tiki mug. It's a two-part mug where the head separates from the body, and you can drink from either the head, which holds 4 ounces, the body holds about 8, so it's 12 ounces for a two-fisted drinker.
All right, and if anything, you can have some head. I'll take the body.
I love where your head's at when it comes to this stuff.
He's the head of the game.
There you go. You said it. Is where my head's at. And I think being able to play with that concept of, a head that can live without its body and talk without its body. It's silly. It's preposterous, but it's also fun and it's memorable. And I think that's what's missing from a lot of the, let's just call it, pedestrian Walking Dead episodes, and frankly the oversaturation of zombies, and really these are meant to be rediscovered and enjoyed on so many levels. And at the same time, we think there's room to reboot this and have more crazy, whacked out monsters from the Philippines and other, Asian countries. So it's a neat offering, and it's a wealth of ideas that it inspires. So, we hope to continue it. Absolutely plan to do 2 more issues, and we are actually exploring the idea of, and we did fund a magazine called Spicy Jungle Adventures. It's Brides of Blood Island Spicy Jungle Adventures. So it is going to be magazine format.
Nice.
And it's going to feature artwork. It's going to be done in more of the style of men's adventure magazines of that period.
NSFW.
Yeah.
Yep. So, we really want to highlight artists like Tony. We're going to work with some other artists, Nick Polico and Steven, and we've got a few other people on board. But yeah, it's just a menagerie of monsters, basically, and merchandise.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing with the horror verse. I'm telling you, man, this is what we need. We need to bring back the fun, bring back that goofiness sometimes, where we can just enjoy ourselves, because there's too much seriousness in the darn world. But let me tell you, this Blood Island team, baby, you're making my blood rise in excitement. Woo!
I mean, I'll second that. Like when you talk about how like this is goofy and silly, and that's just fine. Everything doesn't have to be serious or based in logic or have explanation. And like I love the playfulness of this. I'm looking at like make family game night a night to dismember. That so just leans into like all those advertisements from the the era of Grindhouse, the late 60s.
Yeah.
You guys are so on point with all of this.
I cannot wait to drink my Incredible Hulk in this glass. This is
Look at that. It glows. Look at how
Yep,
cool
glows
is it?
in the dark.
Shot
Yeah.
glass glows.
Oh, look at that. You
Oh.
put them together. Look what a pretty thing it makes. You'll be so blasted and you'll be appreciating this artwork. Look at that.
There you go.
Wepa, Dios mío.
The more we explore, the more value we find in this.
Yeah, man. Am I saying, is she cold out there? Wepa, it was popping.
Fortunately, it's the tropics.
Hey, and look, hey, it might be a cold night. You know what I mean? Hey, and check out the statue. Isn't this fire 16 inches tall? What?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big model.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm digging it. Look at it. You got paintings by Steven Steady. I mean, there goes that classic joint right there. That look. Oh yeah, man. Who wouldn't run after seeing some shit like that? I know I'd be running for my life. I ain't asking questions. I'm just out. Hey, look at that tongue. I'm pretty sure she happy. This is an adult show, folks. Don't you
Yeah,
worry.
exactly. Kids, don't try this at home.
This game is not necessarily for the kids.
And talk about giving her some head. Hey, what a gift. Hey, mama. Yes, ma'am. And look at what's this? Original artwork and all. Oh man.
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff in this campaign.
Yo,
So
you're not
Like,
lying.
more stretch goals than I've ever seen in any other campaign. It's just ridiculous how much.
oh
is in
yeah,
here.
you got to remember this is also a tool for me
Yeah.
to market the concept to a financier, to anybody who's interested in funding a game. We got we have a deal with Trick or Treat Studios, who did the Beast of Blood mask, but they're coming
Oh,
out,
nice.
they're coming out with a Beast of Blood figure, about, I think it's like Mego size, but that was just announced at Toy Fair in New York about a month or two ago. So, all this stuff is just trying to resurrect an old zombie.
The dead.
Resurrect the dead and the Beast of Blood. Those are our tiki mugs. So
These mugs, Bob O'Mac will be all over these. He's a tiki mug guy. So when you said that, yeah, this is definitely a community that digs this type of stuff.
Great.
Well, I'll tell you guys, you're digging into all my nostalgias. It's like now you're like, oh, now you mentioned Mego. Oh, geez, now I'm in even more.
You're just taking more of Bracey's money. He may have to move out. Bracey, like I said, I have a sofa here in case you need it. You know what I mean?
It's like, can we finance?
Do I have to give blood? Hey, wepa. Got a cute lady there with a dope shirt, tiki mug. There we go. I mean, wait, is that a bikini too you're including, or is that just a shirt?
No bikini. No.
I'm about to say, damn.
You get the shirt. It's the shirt.
Now that you said that, that'll be the next campaign.
Yeah,
I want to post it
there
too.
you go.
Yeah, you can be bikini bottoms like that, all about head. Hey, look at the mask right there. That thing looks sick.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I've seen it. It's amazing.
This
Yeah,
is
the guys at Trick or Treat did a great job, and they're going to do this figure. Actually, I didn't include it because it's theirs to distribute, but it's nice to see this monster getting his due, which he never had really back in the 60s and 70s. So,
and look at this. Look at that artwork behind that vinyl glow.
Glow in the dark vinyl.
What? Oh yeah, bro. Smoke a blunt, throw that on, you'll never be the same again.
Well, I'll tell you guys get the if all this works out and you get the movie going that you want to make. One of the things I really dig, and I'm glad you put it in the trailer for the game, is you have that great opening from the film, which is just like a dusk till dawn slaughter fest on the boat. And I hope you start off the film with just that kind of punch to really get the ball rolling.
Yeah, no, I think that's what I enjoyed about those films. They there's a lot of talk and for the time, but I think with a guy like Brian involved and his sensibilities, I mean, no more Stuart Gordon, who was a great guy, I'm sad that he had passed away a few years ago, but he was. But a lot of that stuff came from Brian, and he was lucky to have a guy like Stewart to direct those movies. But Brian's directed a few himself, and he's definitely one who appreciates the weird and unusual. And there's the original poster, and we made a GIF out of it. And,
I love it.
Oh yeah, that is so fire. And I'm telling you, yeah, just seeing these panels reminds me of those old school 70 movies with women just running around in their panties and God knows what's going on. I'm loving it. Thank you.
There's Brian. Yep.
Yeah, man, the team, Rough Sketch Studio, Steven.
Yes. There's Tony.
Tony in the building. All right.
Dex couldn't make it.
You got Thor.
Thor did our tiki mug. He was a Disney Imagineer at one time. There's Mark and me and Sam Sherman. Sam Sherman's the guy was responsible for a lot of the ballyhoo for these movies, and his company Independent International owns them, and I got the rights to do all this fun, goofy stuff. So from Sam.
Heck yeah! I mean, look at that poster right there too.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
That's terrific. I mean, I'm glad the rights landed in your hands because it looks like they're in good, loving hands.
They are definitely, because hey, I saw these at the drive-in and they kind of got me hooked on horror at an early age. So,
Do you think maybe that drive-in has a chance to come back and maybe help save cinema by bringing back something different?
Well, we're lucky. I live in Pennsylvania along with Tony. We're lucky we have a lot here in the Pennsylvania area. Ohio and New York have a lot as well. But it's 6 months out of the year for most drive-ins on the East Coast. A lot of the West Coast ones are gone.
It's the real estate. The real estate became too valuable.
Yep. And it's sad to think that California Same with Texas. Really?
So come on, Vegas, bring back the drive-in.
Yeah. Well, it is a fun way to see a movie, that's for sure.
Yeah, I saw Godzilla, the first one like that. And then my first time in New York watching a movie in a drive-in was in Long Island when I got to see Escape from LA.
Oh, wow. You probably went to the West
you saw a film there recently? Going back to the 70s, watching things like Jaws and Grizzly at the drive-in.
Really?
No, those are good times. You can't really
definitely.
They definitely, I think, are. The streaming era. Yeah, you can see and find a lot of things, but it's not an experience. It's just it's kind of.
No, I still like to go to the movie theater for like that whole theater experience, and it's a shame that's gotten so diminished after COVID. And I'd hate to see that stuff to go away because there's nothing quite like having those giant screens in front of you and you got your bucket of popcorn. You can trick out your home all you want, but it's not the same as going to a theater or a drive-in.
Never experience. But the thing about the 70s and 80s was a small budget movie like The Blood Islands would get a big theatrical release. Now it's a $200 million movie. They're not going to distribute a $500,000 movie or whatever.
No, it's like Dave said, they're very risk averse, and even if a smaller film gets out there, like two of my favorite films from a few years back, Moon and Ex Machina, I was surprised to see those in theaters, but they were there and gone like that. I felt very fortunate to actually catch them in a theater because I was working at a theater at the time.
Yeah, no, that's the sad state we're living in. That the entertainment experience is not what it used to be and what we grew up with. And I don't know what's gonna take its place. I heard Netflix is trying to create venues, but it doesn't make sense to me because I think their whole game was Netflix and chill. So
Netflix and chill. I've never experienced that, but But hey, I mean, Anthony, you're a single man, bro. Have you been experiencing that? I don't know, but what is the Netflix sort of experience? Do you
Not
actually
single, but I love a good Netflix and chill night. Anyway,
I don't think people actually Netflix because
Hey, you get a girl. It's like, hey, let's go out for dinner and a movie. Like, hey, let's go to my place and eat pizza and watch Netflix. It's not quite the same vibe.
Right.
No. I mean, Tony's not far from a drive-in, and I know.
yeah, I actually went to the Mahoney
Nice.
a bunch this summer, and a lot of the nights were sold out, even completely packed. So it's sort of like it's niche, but it's the word of mouth is around. Like a lot of people are driving in from New York and Philly to come to our little Pennsylvania drive-in.
Well, people need to do that more often. I think that could help cinema, helps movie, brings us such a beautiful energy. There's one out here in Massachusetts that is a drive-in, but it also has a bar in the back, and you can watch the film from the bar as you drink. So you make a wonderful event out of it. You know what I mean? And as movies should be. You guys work so hard to produce such quality and beautiful product. And I mean, you're trying to bring back a franchise, baby.
Yeah.
Like I said,
this is what we need.
I'm glad to see this in the hands it's in here, because we've looked at maybe a large mega corporation that's bought up a bunch of IPs and has absolutely done terrible things with them. There's no passion about it. It's all about like, how can I turn a quick buck? Right. And you guys are putting all the love that went into these things, right back again. You can see all the love and the passion and the creativity and everything that went into making these films back in the day when they were just trying to, pull stuff out of their butt for the love of the craft.
Yeah.
Well, we hope to convince a few people to, help us make it happen, because there are still a few in the world that have looked at the project and get it, and that's what you need. You need a champion. They're rare to find in Hollywood, because either they're young, or they just have their own passion projects or vanity
or they're afraid.
But we're lucky. We do have some interest from people who like us might have gone to the drive-in and saw this for the first time, and it made some kind of impact on them. So we're hoping something good will happen with that. If not, we're going to go back to see how we can get it financed with an international co-production to give it that flavor that the original films had. That shooting in the Philippines, those movies have that flavor of the locale and the lagoons, all of that. That they're not sets. They're shot on location, it's life,
baby.
Yeah.
So, listen, it's funny you mentioned I was watching all those old school 70s cannibal flicks, for example. They're always shot on location.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. It's all real. Then you see the documentaries behind them. Oh my God, is even crazier than you even thought.
Yeah, I think that's also missing from a lot of these big budget spectacles. They just seem CGI heavy and so we hope to shoot it on location at a place, but whether it's the Philippines or Indonesia, but
or your backyard, but please make it outside and real.
I mean, like, one of my favorite things to ask a creative team on a movie when I get a chance to interview them is I ask them about crazy stories on set. And if you're just in a big warehouse that's painted green, what kind of stories am I going to get from that? Like, well, this was green and that was green over there, and this thing here was green, and I had to pretend there was something.
Yeah. No, we hope to include this idea of a location, and because it just gives it more of a feel. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Well, guys, this has been really fantastic talking to you all. I encourage everybody to back this project. Let the parties know out there. Let the investors know. Let everybody know, like, this is worthwhile. There's interest, and the best way you can show your support is backing a project, sharing it, spreading the love around, guys. And we want to see this happen. If you want to see more exciting projects, more just crazy out of the box entertainment being put together by people who like really care about what they're doing, And, they're not just trying to like, well, I'm going to buy Star Wars and that's going to be a cash machine forever. We see how that works out. So support people who are really invested in what they're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You're very welcome.
Guys, gentlemen, good luck on the journey. You have supporters here in Comic Crusaders, not just us that are on screen, but the whole family. You guys are doing God's work to terrify the crap out of us. So thank you. Again, keeping it old school, keeping it real. That's the way it should be always. Dave, Mark, and Anthony, you guys rock. And of course, Mr. Bracey, what a wonderful job hosting. And with that, you know what it is, mi gente. Comic Crusaders Undercover Capes all the way. Hasta la próxima. Wepa.